Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. with Glenn Sutherland. This week, my guest is Paul Duncan. Paul, you want to start off by giving everybody a little bit of a background to you, and we'll get into this.
Yeah, for sure. I can give the quick download as everyone always does. So my background is I run a quote unquote marketing agency, which I'll share some context what that means in a minute because it's not the traditional context. But my background is where I started. I started at the age of 21 with the same way as probably a lot of your audience has started, which is number one, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. Number two, falling into the rabbit hole of either some of the Darren Weeks conferences back in the day, or being a RAIN member and learning from Don Campbell is kind of where I started. Being 21, I was just kind of like, I want to do something. I was always entrepreneurial. I started as a mechanic right out of high school, and I didn't be a mechanic. I wanted to be in business. Yeah. And the crazy thing that happened is Darren Weeks stuck a flyer in my mailbox, and I was like, oh, what's this? And I got up the courage to be like, oh, I'm going to go to this conference and see what happens. And I got up the courage to show up to a hotel that had like a bunch of people in suits and ties, and they're all pretty. And I was like totally out of my element. But when I heard you can get, rental properties and tenants and get cash flow, that was it for me. That was it. And then so I started buying rental properties. But the background there is why I'm talking about a marketing agency is because I'm from Fort McMurray. My rental properties are from Fort McMurray. And if you know the story, oil kind of tanked in 2014, which means my real estate imploded. And I had to really hustle to figure out what to do and stuff. And I found through another real estate friend this whole kind of marketing thing and doing online stuff, and I kind of just fell in love with it. And so around 2016, 17, I kind of started a marketing agency, working in the real estate niche, right? So realtors, mortgage brokers, investors, things like that. But after a few years of working with real estate clients, I hated my agency. I hated the business that I built because I would generate leads for people. And then it was up to them to convert these cold leads, cold keyword, not warm referrals, right? Convert them into a paying customer, maybe a motivated seller, whatever. And they couldn't do it. And when they couldn't do it, they would say, these leads are bad. And they would come back to me and yell at me. And I would literally have people threatening me, hey, I'm going to sue you. I'm calling my lawyer. It's like, dude, I generated you leads, man. Come on. And so I hated that. And so I kind of took it's not fun. And so I took kind of a hiatus for a year or so there, learning some new things in sales and marketing and kind of just honing in all these skills and going through a whole journey that led me into the solar business for a little bit actually too.
Oh, interesting.
And in the United States, not even in Canada. And so I kind of pivoted everything to what I have now, which is you could technically call it a marketing agency, but I would call more of what I do a funnel engineer, and I act as a consultant. I have both the consulting part of it and also the software company, Profitflo, to actually help people build their own lead machine in their business and show them not just how to generate a lead, but how to create a discovery call, how to book that into a consultation, and then close the sale and actually kind of build that whole machine that works for you. So that's what I have now. I guess that's where we're at. That's the summary.
That's awesome, right? And I think a lot of people, hopefully they didn't tune out because they're like, oh, it's marketing. Oh, I'm gonna have to call people, or I'm gonna have to do something. But I think a lot of people, you have to realize there is going to be some work in this if you're going to do this properly. If you're just taking all your leads off of, like for real estate investors, you're taking this all off the MLS. You're leaving a lot of dollars on the table. And honestly, if you're going to be the working partner in this sort of relationship, what are you adding? They're bringing the money and you're just picking easy, anyone could buy. Like what are you adding to this? Like this is something that should be in your business. You should be generating off-market leads or better connections, whatever your goal is. You can do this a lot better, right? Than just strictly taking the easy low-hanging fruit, right? I have more free content. So if you're interested, I created a PDF guide and a video to go along with the PDF guide to complement it. And what the guide is all about is the 5 most common mistakes that Canadians make when investing in the United States. So if you're interested in this free guide, go to CanadianInvestingInTheUSA.com/mistakes. And let's go back to the podcast. And it's free.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I would say to that, like, if there's anyone watching this and it's like they're trying to get started, whatever they're doing in real estate, man, the money is in like picking up the phone. I probably, that sounds cliche and you've heard that 1,000 times, but like I have been unemployed for 5 years plus now because I just pick up the phone, and I still do that to this day. Honestly, sometimes I have resistance and I don't want to do it. I'm like, hey, I got like an appointment setter for that, but when I pick up the phone, I will book appointments and I will make sales. So, yeah, I guess there's that part of it. I had another thing to add, but I lost my train of thought.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you too. Like, especially my best thoughts come when someone else is talking. but no. So you're talking like, so you hand these people, like before you're handing people a list of cold leads, and they would just pick them up and probably just call and say, hey, are you interested in this? And that was it. What should have they been doing?
That's the key question. Yeah. So depending on what campaign I was running, there was cold calling stuff with a list. Can't really do that as much in Canada because the privacy laws.
Yes.
US is better for that. Most of the time in Canada, just running, so Facebook ads, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, to generate leads. But you ask, what should someone be doing? So number one, there's a word called a discovery call. I learned this like, years into my marketing agency journey. And one of my business coaches was like, have you heard of discovery call? And I'm like, what's that? And he explained to me, a discovery call is something you do before you book the sales call. And the only goal is 2 things. Number one, warm them up so that they trust you, give them value, give them trust. And number 2, that discovery call is there so you can disqualify them quickly on a 5-minute call. So you're not wasting your time, right? You don't want to book them into a 1-hour consultation, block off your calendar if they're not even qualified, right? So we want to make sure they're qualified, and then we want to build trust. Here's the thing. Most people, so I got a lot of consulting clients, and when I get on the Zoom calls with them, one thing they ask me is, do you have someone who can call my leads for me? Or like, I'm going to hire someone to do it. I'm like, listen, you're not converting any of your leads into appointments right now because you haven't learned the skill. And so there's 2 things I guess I would say to that is, number one, literally just start with 1 call, get in the groove. And then number 2, following a step-by-step script. There's a process, like I have a 7-step discovery call script. It's probably too much to go through on this podcast today. This isn't like a coaching session.
Yeah.
But there's 2 parts to that. So when it comes to the 7-step script, the goal on a discovery call is to get them to show them that you're not going to sell them anything. And in sales, you're either chasing someone or they're chasing you. It's one of the 2. And your goal on a discovery call is to pull away and say, yo, man, I'm just here. I'm just here to say hi. Nice to meet you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to see, if there's something I can help you with. And you're pulling away. And then the goal of that discovery call is to be like, oh, well, I mean, I might have something that we can work with, kind of thing. Like, oh, I'd like to work with you, right? And the goal of discovery call is actually to not sell them something. So
I like that. Right.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like when I do, like I still have a lot to learn with this too, but a lot of my calls, I get usually right to the point, right? And I have a script, I work my way through it, but I think I skipped out on this whole discovery, the first one, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know, maybe it's just that I'm anxious that I won't know, not sure if I'll get a second call.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say the other thing to that too is like, most people, there's a point I was going to make there. I got like 5 different thoughts about discovery calls that I really wanted to say. But sorry, can you repeat your last word there? And I want to make sure I remember that.
Oh, I don't even remember myself. I was talking like maybe I'm not going to get a second call, right? So a lot of times I just put everything into the first call, right? I put
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like a bit of a story on that. I started my marketing agency not having money for leads. I couldn't run my own ads, even though I had an agency because I didn't have the money. And the thing that I did is I started doing actually LinkedIn cold messaging campaigns, where literally you just run an automation, start cold messaging people and seeing who responds. What I found is, so I couldn't convert any sales, and all I was trying to do is cold message, trying to get on a sales call and try to close them as a client. Is the day that I put discovery call in the middle is the day I started converting sales. And LinkedIn cold messaging was the one campaign that took me from like 0 revenue to my first 10K a month just from doing the discovery call. So just to add to your point there, it's like, oh, if I add another call, maybe they'll ghost me or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because it's like, oh, there's another place for someone to ghost you.
Yeah.
But it also was the one thing that got me to convert cold leads from nothing. So,
well, yeah. But they also, like, it's you take so many other courses and it's always like, be efficient with your time, batch, do all these other things, right? So I'm like, oh, if I'm going to do this as efficiently as possible, I'm like, let's book them in a batch and like just go through 1, bang, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I'm a pretty big nerd with numbers. I like my spreadsheets and I track my campaigns. The question I think I would ask probably is like, what is your close rate without a discovery call? And then what is your close rate with a discovery call? And I think it'd be pretty interesting to see those numbers because, I mean, based on my sales process, like the with the discovery call, even though it's more work, wasted time, you're trying to batch and be efficient and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you look at your full funnel conversion rate from cold lead to signed deal, I think you'd find that the conversion rate is higher when you do the discovery call. Because you talk about people ghosting you, right? Your ghost rate will be higher if you don't do the discovery call. So I don't know. If we're keeping this in the real estate context, we're talking about maybe motivated sellers or something.
Yeah.
If you don't do that discovery call and you just try to like go to someone's house and be like, hey, here's an offer. Like, do you want to accept it right now? Sign it right now. They're like, whoa, are you trying to scam me? I don't know, man. Ooh, that's risky. And motivated sellers are already timid. They're already scared. And so by the way, just for reality of, what this looks like in a wholesaling business, Ashton Fisher out of Edmonton, my good buddy, Brendan, this is what they do. They have, actually they use Profitflo as their phone system, and his wife sits down every day and calls those motivated seller leads and does a quick discovery call, finds out who's disqualified, who's not, and then books them into an in-person meeting for Brendan to actually show up at the house. And so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's from the data I've seen from all the clients, that we've ever done, the discovery call increases the conversion rate versus decreases it. So
it makes sense. And you're also, if you're sending someone on site, you're not wasting your time driving across town to someone who hasn't been qualified.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
How many meetings are there? So that we got that there's a discovery call. We got that in the situation you're talking about, like there's an in-person. What follow-up, what other meetings are required? Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
I mean, so typically most people I work with, like real estate, like most like consultant kind of professional businesses, it's you get a lead, there's a follow-up campaign with text and emails kind of thing, and then you call them. That's a discovery call. You book the consultation, whether that be in person or Zoom, depending on your business. That's the one call, and typically you should be able to close them there. If there's a follow-up with a quote unquote, I need to think about it, then you need to hone in on your sales process and eliminate the I need to think about it. But really, it's just there's kind of the lead, discovery call, and the close. So
yeah. I'm just thinking about from even like discovery calls I'm thinking that I was on without realizing I was on, is a lot of times they're before you go and meet with so and so, are you the one who can make the decision on this? Are you the one who has access to the money? Are you the one can actually close this? They always ask you when you do that first call, right?
yeah, that would be a discovery call. I think when somebody asks like, "Hey, are you decision maker? Are you going to pull out your credit card if we book the call?" Like it's kind of like awkward. It's weird.
It does make me feel uncomfortable when I get that question.
Yeah, I mean, so in the solar business, we needed to ask that question because you can't sign a solar deal without both title holders on the property, right? But we would do it in a little bit different way and just make sure like, hey, yeah, so it's always good to hear this information with the wife because you want to ask questions and make sure you're both understanding. So if I book you in, I can do either Thursday at 3 or 6. What's best for you? Oh, 6 o'clock. Okay. And is that time good for the wife as well? Okay, perfect. And you always ask, is that time good for the wife as well? Okay, perfect. And then what a lot of the sales reps will do is if they show up to the house and the wife isn't there, they'll flip the script and they'll say, "Oh yeah, no, so I'm just here to do a quick inspection of your house. Let's check the furnace. Okay. Oh, let's check the panel. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So that's good. So that was just an introductory just to make sure your house actually qualifies. So what we'll do next is we'll book a meeting to go over the numbers and everything in person. When's your wife available?" And they'll just pretend that the meeting wasn't even existing and they're just going to go rebook the meeting
Why?
because
Otherwise, they're just wasting their time.
every single time, like, so not only me, but dozens of sales reps, same every time. Every time you book a meeting that doesn't have the husband and wife there, it does not close, period. So why do it then? You're wasting 2 hours of your life for no reason. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, those are great tips. So let's talk Profitflo a little bit, right? So what is it? I know like before we jumped on this call, I was curious myself. So is it a coaching program? Is it a course? What is Profitflo?
For sure. Yeah. So it's kind of two parts. There is the, I guess you'd call it coaching program or consulting, whatever, on how to build that lead machine in your business. And then the other half is the tools to actually implement that lead machine in your business. So what are all the tools required to run any business? You need a phone system, you need a website, you need, all your marketing materials, your social media marketing, like automations, pretty much everything to automate and run your business from like phones to funnels to websites. That's what we provide. And we have a whole dev team that works for me.
Yep.
And so they're constantly building new things specific to the client we work with, like in real estate and stuff like that. And so it's kind of a tool that's pre-made for that specific business. And then when someone jumps onto Profitflo, they're not jumping onto the tool because the tool is useless unless you know how to use the tool. And that's why we have our consulting programs where I kind of coach people on kind of where are you at with your lead machine? Do you even have a lead machine? Are you relying on word of mouth? Are you relying on pay-per-lead websites? What are you doing? And then we want to essentially build a lead machine that consistently brings in new leads predictably so that you can actually start scaling up your business and growing over time versus just kind of winging it with referrals. One thing I want to say about referrals, like this is my pet peeve, and I talk about it with the consulting people, is referrals are a lagging indicator. Okay. They're like if I get nerdy with the statistics, we have lagging indicators and leading indicators, right? Lagging indicators are things that happened, they're from your past work and they're just happening now. You have zero control over the lagging indicators, and a word of mouth referral is the most lagging indicator because it's not only something that's coming from a closed deal, it's coming from a closed deal who was happy and then they decided to refer you. And that's like super lagging indicator. So what do we want to focus on when we're building these lead machines? We want to focus on the leading indicator, which is what you have full control over. What is that? That's you getting out of the house, flyering every house who you think would be a motivated seller. That's you walking down the street, putting letters in the mailbox. That's you picking up the phone and pressing the dial button. Those are things that are within your control. So so when we're building things for people, we're focusing on the leading indicators, and we try not to talk about word of mouth because it's not in your control at all. So
It's tough. Yeah, I get that. this popped in my head, right? And I'm not talking about the cost of, your coaching or the software, but because you said it's kind of like a template. It works for a lot of different businesses. In a ballpark, for the social media part, like, because if you're buying ads or buying whatever, how much do you think people should have in their budget in order to do that? Even besides, the coaching or the training and your thing, how much should they be budgeting to spend on this in order to grow their business?
Yeah. So this is my happy place. Thank you for asking that. So it actually has nothing to do with like, oh, you should budget 10% of your revenue or something.
Mhm.
It's actually simply a math equation. So how many deals would you like to be doing per month? Okay. Then what's your conversion rate on like how many consultations turn into a deal? Okay. So know that number. How many of your discovery calls turn into a consultation? How many of your leads turn into a discovery call? And you work backwards from the end to find out how many exact leads you need per month. Because remember, we don't control how many deals we want. So if we say, hey, I want 10 deals per month, cool. What are you going to do about that? You can't do anything about that. But what you can do is control how many leads you get. Okay. And then now you know how many leads you need per month to get to your deal and revenue goal. So now we focus on the leads. And that comes down to, so you talk about what the budget should be. So that means we might be talking about running advertising, like maybe Facebook or YouTube or something.
Yeah.
So if that's the conversation, then we simply need to know, okay, what is my cost per lead on, say, Facebook? And then we know we need this many, 100 leads per month. So it's 100 leads times your cost per lead. That is the marketing budget required to get to your goal. Now, the next thing is like, cool, well, I don't have the money to hit that budget, right? So that's the next conversation. So there's two things there, which is number one, you don't start. Most people cannot start on their goal ad spend because they probably just don't have the budget. Doesn't mean you have to start there. You can start at the budget you have now, and then you talk about what you should be budgeting. Maybe take 10% of your revenue out and put it aside as your marketing budget that you keep reinvesting forever. And then as you keep doing more deals, you take that amount of money out, you reinvest it, and the goal is to keep increasing the ad spend over time until you hit that goal, deals per month that you want to do. That's kind of the framework.
That makes a lot of sense too. And even say you're like brand new, because if you're trying to do it takes this many calls to do this many, and you reverse engineer it. But if you're brand new, you don't know that. So just starting with smaller budget, right? And just that's because that's all you may have, right?
Exactly. And to one thing note about not knowing, so you not only maybe don't have the budget or don't know that part, but it's also you don't know what your conversion rate is, right? How do you find that out? If you don't know, you've never run ads, you don't know. And some people will be like, well, I know what my, warm market conversion rate is. And it's like, cool. So take that number and toss it out the window because it's irrelevant, because cold leads are totally different from warm leads, right? And so what we need to do, the answer is whenever someone says like, oh, what's the number need to be? I say, the term we use in the marketing agency world is in data we trust. And what that means is my opinion doesn't mean crap. Your opinion doesn't mean anything. We test it and we split test and we keep optimizing over time until we both find what that cost per lead is. And also how do we optimize it to get both the best quality leads at the best price? Because one thing to note there is the goal is not to get the cheapest cost per lead, because what typically happens is like in the marketing world, they'll be like, oh, I got $2 leads. And I'm like, cool, you're an amateur, because $2 leads mean crap. The question is, what's your cost per qualified lead? Because there's a difference between cost per lead and cost per qualified lead, right? And so if you get $1 leads, but they're not qualified, you're wasting your time. So, yeah.
No, this is great. Well, you know what, Paul, I kind of asked you about your company, but how do they find it? Maybe give us some information on how to track you down.
Yeah, for sure. Probably the easiest way is literally just paulduncan.ca, DUNCAN. You can go to profitflo.io, but if you want to be more specific to kind of real estate and some of those lead machine programs, I would suggest going to paulduncan.ca first. Like I said, the tool is useless unless you're kind of a part of a program that helps you build it. So yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Paul, this was great. I'm excited. I'm inspired. I never run ads myself, and honestly, I think it's something I need to do in my business. I like you were saying, I always do word of mouth, right? And honestly, I thought it was more admirable to do word of mouth, to be completely honest, because I'm like, I'm not throwing anything at it. Everything's grown organically, but at the same time, you're always behind, right? There's always people that are going to be taking, flying way faster than you were flying, right? So I think it's a great. I think that people should be taking you up on these offers. I think it's a great way to, to scale this and grow to where you want your company to be. So anyway, I think people should reach out to you, and see where this goes.
Yeah, appreciate it. Happy to share some context, share some value, and thanks for inviting me.
Thanks.
That was a nice video. Bye.